In today's session with Jodi, we're going to dive into cookie governance beyond the banner. We'll also explore how privacy tech succeeds only with strong processes, policies, and people. And we will talk about what Jodi looks for in a great, productive working relationship with her internal teams and external clients. So we'll spend the first 10, 15 minutes doing some questions with me, and then we'll turn off the recording and open it up to audience Q&A. All right. One final reminder. Everything in this session is for general informational purposes only and is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you're a lawyer, Jodi, but you're
I
not
am
any
not a lawyer. It always comes with a disclaimer. I love
perfect.
it.
No lawyers. We're not lawyers. We're not your lawyer. So it all works out. So please know this general information only, and contact your own attorney if you have a legal matter. All right, Jodi, you ready to hop in?
I am. Let's have some fun.
Okay,
Because it's 5 o'clock somewhere, like where I am. So
it
we got to
is.
have fun.
Yes, that's a good point. 5 o'clock Eastern. Okay, so the first question I have is just because you have such a broad view of what's happening across multiple companies in your role as a consultant or a consulting company, I'd really like to get a sense of like what is the state of privacy today, and how do you see like what similarities you see across clients, and then conversely, what do you see that's different? So what's happening out there? Give us the eagle eye perspective.
So everyone's in a different place. That's a real reality. You have some that are really mature, and now they're coming back through and realizing, okay, so maybe I did this for GDPR. Maybe I did this for CCPA. Maybe I did this for a few other states. Oh my God, there's a lot of states now. I actually guess I have to come up with a program and a process. Or maybe it's even humming along and I want to test it. I want to make sure that it's coming. That's going to be my next level of maturity. We then can contrast that with people who are still trying to figure out what applies to them. I legitimately had a call yesterday. They spoke to a number of law firms. They came to me, and quite honestly, they were too small to have to technically comply with the US laws. And no one had talked to them about that before. And they're going to privacy Google. I would say Dr. Google, but that doesn't really work here. So, privacy Google. And trying to figure out what it is that they have to do. The information was conflicting. We had a conversation. Now they're going to kind of decide what's the right path for them and moving forward. There's obviously a lot of companies in between. Many who think I have my cookie banner, I'm good. You might not even need a cookie banner in the United States. Kind of depends on how you want to manage a variety of requirements and potential litigation. And then you have some people who are just trying to, keep the lights on and keep privacy going. So I'm happy to go into any further detail, but I want to see if you have any follow-up questions first. So I'm not
Yeah,
just like the talking head.
you talked about, well, we did say in the top that we were going to talk about cookie governance. So I'd like to know a little bit about that. And you touched on something that I think you're talking about wiretap laws. Is what you
Oh, yes, I am talking about wiretap laws.
okay.
And also, I was so excited to talk cookie governance. You might have started with the full picture, and I was just so excited to talk cookie. So let me rewind just a moment. But it's the same theme, which are that for people who built programs to comply with GDPR, who then moved to CCPA, and then the few states after that, and then the plethora of states. They really are starting to mature all of those different pieces. Maybe their assessments are band-aided together and it's time to start over and write a whole new one. Maybe the tech that they put in place or the non-existent tech, maybe they need tech or they need to review what tech they have. The people, the process, the policies, all of those are getting reviewed to really be able to move them up on a maturity curve. And then you truly still have companies that think a privacy notice is all they need, think that they have to be physically located somewhere and forget that it's about the individual and where the individual is located. And then the middle is some combination. Maybe they have cookie banner, but they're doing a manual data inventory and they want to kind of move up to that next stage. Or they might even just be still trying to figure out what their data is and move to maybe a privacy impact assessment. So we are seeing a lot more movement to doing PIAs and a bigger movement to doing third party risk assessments because that I have found to be a little bit lower on the items that they can cover over all this time. So some companies are doing them and other companies are moving up in their maturity curve.
interesting. So when you do, and are your clients mostly in the US?
Great question. I would say majority of our clients are based in either Canada or the US, but they are definitely global companies. So we go global in terms of all of our privacy knowledge and privacy fun, but
Yeah.
we tend not to work with too many that are headquartered globally, or maybe the parent company is headquartered globally and they also have a really large US headquarters. So I don't know how that one counts.
So I'm curious, the reason why I asked that was because I was wondering what sort of maturity curve, you mentioned a curve. Do you use a maturity model, a specific one, US focus? What do you guys like to do?
Great question. What we like to do is be able to identify the requirements under GDPR, EU and UK. And then we look at all the US states. We'll add in a couple other countries depending on where people are. We've blended in the NIST privacy principles throughout that. And we're assessing companies against those requirements and those principles to understand where they are. So when we do an assessment, we're looking at risk, we're looking at maturity, kind of putting those pieces together and mapping them on a curve. So we've built this kind of 4-stage maturity model to see where people are, barely there, super mature. A lot of people are in the middle.
I'm curious, how long does an assessment like that take?
Wow. I'm going to give the not an attorney answer.
Yeah. Okay.
It depends. The
Yeah.
reality is it really does because do you have it looks at the complexity of the organization. How much marketing and sales activity are you doing? Really sophisticated or not sophisticated? How complex is your product and basically revenue operations? How do you make money? That could be really simple. You just might make a lot of money, or it could be really complicated or even boring because you don't have a lot of personal information about it. How many locations around the world? How many employees do we have? So we've been able to do some in maybe, a month or two. And if you have nothing, we can just have a call and I can give you some, I can help you really
Yeah.
quickly. But then
Used to.
others, like a more mature, larger organization, those are going to be a couple months because it's going to be numerous interviews, significant document review. We might be reviewing 50 to 100 plus documents. We might be reviewing multiple websites. We're going to have a lot of conversations to package all that together.
Wow. Well, and so this is, I want to tie all these two things together. So we talked about people and processes in tech. So I kind of want to underscore the people part. And then I did want to just get your high level thoughts on the cookie governance, because I know that is a factor that brought many folks to this session. So give us your thoughts on the role people play in an effective program. Because I think sometimes we often overlook the people and we're like, oh, just get some fancy tech and it's gonna work out. Like,
Oh my
well,
goodness. So yeah, let's start with that because a lot of people think I need tech, or maybe I don't need tech. I just go create my assessment and I'm done. Or I got my privacy notice and I put it on my site and I am good. Well, any assessment, whether it's in tech or your favorite Word or spreadsheet program, is only as good as someone reviewing it because I could hand it to someone, they could write Mickey Mouse all day. They could just, pick their favorite boxes that they want. Who knows what it says? And the whole point of doing it is to identify the risk. Either there is risk, there isn't risk, and to mitigate the risk. So if you're not understanding what's happening, or if you're using technology that might do data discovery, in my view, you still want to talk to the humans to understand how are they actually using the data. Oh, I extract that data and I do this with it, or I analyze this data, or I make this decision. You need to talk to the humans because as of right now, the humans are still doing things. If you have a human working, they are doing something and we need to talk to them. So I'm so strong on the people. Now, people are more effective. I just talked to someone who's doing 40 PIAs on Word and they don't have enough people, and that's high volume. And I said, you really need some software because it will help alleviate and make it more efficient. You might even be able to help flag some risks and be able to automate your program and be more effective, leaving the people the time to really look at and spend time on the high risk areas and process tools and assessments and data inventories and even a notice are only as good as if you have a process in place. That notice is lovely, but when someone wants to go and create a new feature on the site or a new initiative, they have to review the notice. If you're going to do some new feature, then the assessment doesn't work if it's just in a dusty file or in a dusty software if no one knows when they're supposed to actually use it. So for me, it's a triad that all goes together. They're all important. And depending on the company and the complexity, in my mind, determines how much of each of those you do. Cookie governance is exactly the same. So let's take our trusty cookie consent banner. That is a solution I highly recommend buying a third party company and don't build it yourself. There are still companies who want to build it themselves. So we have our trusty software. Lovely. The marketing team or somebody else, whoever has access to the site, might come and say, I have a great new pixel. Poof, off it goes. Who are you, Pixel? What are you collecting? Who? Oh, you know what? We decided we didn't really like that campaign. Oh, but we forgot to take it down. So we're still sending data to off to that company. What does governance do? Governance is people, who's responsible, who's locked down, who can put these on, who's going to review it, process. What am I looking for? What are the risks? Who's going to be a part of all that? And then the policy and the tech allow for the placement, the accepting, and the rejecting. But that governance piece is what helps companies have control over making sure they know which pixel goes on the site and also to not leave it there forever and actually know how to remove it and test that all the software and all the policies are working the way that they need to for whatever jurisdiction somebody is in. I'm a little passionate about cookie governance.
Fascinating. You know, what's so interesting is, especially when you were talking about the people part, about like, you've got all the data, but what do you do with it? You know, anybody can take all this information, but it's like doing something with it. And the phrase that came to mind was privacy comprehension. You
Oh,
know,
I like that phrase.
like I can understand it and like comprehend what this means. And to your point, it was about risk. That was the most important part to understand. Okay, quick last question before we open it up to audience Q&A. I'm curious to know what it is that you look for in a team, both for your clients and internally to drive successful outcomes in the privacy department.
Yeah. So let's start with the client part because to make a successful engagement, and everyone here is working either with other people inside a company or with somebody external. The first piece is that no one, if you are a client, we are here to serve and we need information because otherwise we're going to be writing Mickey Mouse. So we need the participation. We need the timely participation and we need communication if there's going to be something that's not going to work. And part of that communication would also be realistic timing. So if there's a big engagement or there's big vacations or there's big initiatives that are going to impact the success of our project, then we all just need to identify what's the right approach and timeline so that everyone understands the expectations going in. So I would say communication and communication on answering any of the questions and the needs that someone has. And then also communication in terms of timing, because the best plans need to change sometimes, and that's okay. Just be honest and have those open dialogues. And then that's how projects are able to be really successful. So for us, we really like status reports, really open communication, and we're very flexible because projects need to change and we're just going to change alongside with you. We want you to be successful, which brings us kind of to the people part. So things change. And this industry, we're learning new laws all the time. I can only imagine how many more laws we're going to need to learn, that will be passed this legislative season. And we're still learning the ones that were just passed. So we have to stay on our toes. We have to be willing and curious to learn. And we have to be able to help, Mary, as you talked about, companies are in a different range of where they are maturity-wise. They all want to do the right thing for what works for them. So people need to be able to do that flexing, need to be able to work with companies at all different stages and across privacy operation modalities, because we're here to do the whole thing. We're here to help from start to finish. Either that's figuring out that privacy program assessment or actually doing the work. So someone really flexible, really nimble, and really curious. And we are always looking. We are always looking for great people. So if this sounds fun and interesting to you, then please, no matter when you're listening to this, please reach out. I am very accessible. LinkedIn is a great place to come and say hi. You can also learn more on our website about our open roles and what we're looking for. But hopefully that is helpful for anyone looking for privacy roles.
Oh, that's so exciting. Okay, well, let's definitely open it up to questions from the audience.